going to get into some FC Pro live chat on this content episode. And I never feel more in the hands of an expert than I do on these podcasts, Josh, and I'm sure you can imagine why.
Yes, because I'm here.
Exactly.
And, my knowledge of the pro scene is really second to none. I can't imagine we'd get anybody else on that would know more than me about the pro scene. But, introduce the guest if you must.
It is, of course, 𝗏𝗏 Cup and FC Pro live commentator, Richard Buckley. Hello.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for the invite on to a show where, do you know what? I feel somewhat knowledgeable. Like I'm not having to worry about Evos, and I could just crack on and tell you all about what's coming up this season on the FC Pro campaign.
Yeah, and for those who aren't aware, these FC Pro live items are live and they will get upgraded as they go. And last cycle, well, Richard, you made some people quite a lot of money. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I did. I told people to invest in 𝘭𝘪𝘬𝘦's item, which was Donyell Malen. He was pretty much on the floor at like 10, 15k. And I think he went up, he peaked to about 40k, which if you managed to get a few and you managed to get in early, there was some serious coins to be made there. But it was a really good campaign last year, I think, for like an introductory for a lot of people who'd never really watched the eSport before. And I think this year they're looking to bring the players a little bit more in line with the actual items. I think there's less wacky players. Like, I think from last year, Sean LDW had Dele Alli. You tell me where the connection is. German player, Dele Alli. But this year, I think we're a lot more in line, and I'm looking forward to breaking it all down.
Yeah, we'll start off with pound for pound, but before that, actually, we need you to pick last week's pound for pound powerhouse winner, Richard. And the nominations were World Tour Tell, Track Stars 𝗵𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀, or Track Stars Donovan. Who are we going for?
Do you know what? One of the three players I've used and I really enjoyed, and it was 𝗵𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀.
Nice. Yeah. Well, that was snatched from me by Josh, so I count that as a draw. Nice. And then we can get into this week's pound for pound. And you know what, Richard? You're probably best placed to pick the best option for pound this week, so go for it.
There's a lot of players who are at a really solid value, I think, from the recent promo, but I'm actually going to go with a player not from FC Pro, if I'm allowed to.
Wow.
It was an SBC that I'm pretty sure came out in the last week, and it was Flashback Aubameyang, who is, I have to say, incredible. His finesse is so clean. He's quick, he's strong, he's physical, and he's a real solid player. So that's my pound for pound.
Interesting. Yeah, Saudi League is doing well at the moment as well. Like, there are lots of good options from the league, and even more because of FC Pro Live. I wasn't expecting that, but yeah, we'll take it. And let's move on to you, Josh.
Yeah, well, having said that, I thought 𝗵𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 was a fantastically underrated and undervalued player on last week's pod. We then did get a Saudi League SBC, which bumped his price by about 10k, which was nice. It's come back down again, so you can still go and try him out. But I'm going to go with an FC Pro card, kind of upgrade or not, to be honest. And it's a cult hero, a classic. It's Wout Weghorst. Like, there's not much that you can do in the game against a 6'6" striker. There's just not a lot that you can do. And especially when he has base aerial, power header plus, I mean, like, if you're struggling with build-up, if you're struggling to hold the ball up, if you're kind of, I don't know, the game's not suiting what you want, this is like your battering ram to go, fine, I'm just going to loft this as high as possible. He's going to win the knockdown, progress the ball up the pitch, bring your wingers into play. Like, has there ever been a more target forward? Just like, and kind of underneath it, stats-wise, he's really good for an 86 rated card. So controlled lengthy, first off, like, I think lengthy on strikers is super undervalued. I think it's better on defenders, but the strikers gives them like sneaky pace once they get going. He's got 80 plus in every single one of his dribbling stats, which for a player who's 6'6" is really important. He's got 92 jumping, 94 heading accuracy, and 94 strength. Like, he's getting up there and he's not getting pushed off it. And he's got 92 shot power and 𝗏𝑐7 finishing base. Like, I threw him in for a few games yesterday, and he's not the showdown card that we got a few years ago yet. But he is like not that far away and does all of those things that card did. The ability to take it down on his chest if you want to like hold it up with him. Just ridiculous because he's already at the jumping height of the defender behind him, unless it's Van Dijk. Let's go back to the actual card itself. Finesse shot, power shot, technical, press proven, and quick step. Like, it's like if you could hand pick. I mean, we did an episode last year where we hand picked our playstyles. If we were wanting this position, what playstyles we get. I don't know that you'd pick that much different. Like, maybe you wouldn't have power header as the plus, but I mean, that selection for a target forward striker was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous, and he's under 30k.
Yeah. Also, if the pro earns 6 points, they get the +1 skill move or weak foot upgrade. So you're looking at him getting either 5-star weak foot or 4-star skills, and I think that adds quite a bit of value to a 3-star, 4-star player. So yeah, it's a very, very promising base for a card. I mean, as you say, good now, could be even better. Although, Richard, 𝘵𝑚𝑉𝑖 is Group D, and the way that this structure works, maybe it's a good time to talk about it, is that the groups play each week, and Group D, I assume, is the last one to play, right? So it'll be a bit of time before the first chance for an upgrade.
Yeah, so you're going to be waiting until the 16th of December for Weghorst to get his first set of upgrades, but I do think you're in pretty safe hands with 𝘵𝑚𝑉𝑖 as well, I've got to say. If you've gone in on Weghorst, he's a very, very good groups qualifying player, 𝘵𝑚𝑉𝑖. Made the semi-finals last year, and I think we will be seeing Weghorst with a few upgrades.
Nice. And I guess, so long till he plays, there's a good chance there might be a bit of a kind of drop off even further over the time between then and now. Right. It's time for me to nominate my pound for pound, and it's someone that I've actually, I think, mentioned before in the podcast because I evolved a version of him early on in the cycle, and that is Redondo, the Inter Miami centre mid. He has a perfect link to Messi, which is why earlier in the cycle I evolved a version of him and have been very impressed, despite the fact he doesn't have a playstyle plus and is maybe a little bit less well-rounded than this version. His pace was higher, and he actually even now is still a very good player. He's 6'3". He's got a real physical presence to him. Reminds me a bit of a kind of prime 𝗵𝑚𝑉𝑖, but kind of quicker. Has press proven. He's got bruiser. He's got ping to pass. The version I have has intercept, which is a bit of an advantage, but he's still pretty good at intercepting anyway. His stats are good. Tiki-taka plus, as people are probably aware, is a good playstyle, especially for a deep line playmaker plus. And he's just, at the time of recording 18k, I'd imagine he'll go down to near discard at some point. But 𝗵𝗀𝗀𝘀 plays this Monday, probably the day of release of the podcast. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Early upgrade potential, maybe.
Yeah, I think if he has that solid first week, expecting to pick up a few points. Could he go all the way? I'm going to say no, but good luck to you. So low risk.
Yeah, he is very, very low risk. And actually, we kind of started talking a little bit about how the structure of the competition works, but I think we should probably cover that from the start. Richards, how does FC Pro Live work? What's the competition format and the upgrades associated with that?
Yeah, so from the top, there's 24 players in the FC Pro Open. Each player is assigned an in-game item. The groups are made up. There's 4 groups with 6 players in each group. On week 1, Group A will play. Week 2, Group B, which will be the 2nd of December. On the 9th of December, Group C would play. And then on the 16th of December, Group D plays. We then come back in January. From the 6th of January to the 27th is the next 4 groups. So it's a round robin. Everyone plays each other twice, almost as a home fixture and an away fixture. It's for people to get their heads around that pretty simply. And then the weekend following that last group game, I believe the 2nd and 3rd of February is the finals where the knockouts will get played, and we'll crown our winner just like 𝘃 won last year with Van der Boomen and gets the upgrade. The upgrade path this year is slightly different because there is more games that are being played. So next Monday on the 25th, you're going to have 𝘭𝘪𝘳, 𝘭𝘪𝘬𝘦, Cohen, Nick Snebb, Michael Evan and Stingray all play their 5 matches. Each player will play each other once and they'll play 5 games. So there's 15 points up for grabs on week 1 of the competition. If a player achieves 3 points, they get a +1 overall to their item. 6 points, they get a +1 skill move or weak foot. That's important that it's one or the other, not both. If a player achieves 10 points, they get a +1 position, so an alternate position to that item, and they get a roll ++, which I think is quite significant. 16 points, which is not attainable the first week, but when they come back in January, they get another +1 overall. If you qualify into the knockouts, which is finishing 1st, 2nd, or 3rd in the group, you would achieve a +1 overall and a roll plus. And then if you win the FCA Pro Open, you get a skill move or a weak foot and a +1 overall and a playstyle plus.
Yeah, it's actually probably worth highlighting here because of the format you mentioned. So they play 1 round of fixtures, each of them playing, 5 matches against each opponent in their group once before a sort of Christmas break. And then they come back and do the same thing again, basically, to do the second half of the group stage. So in terms of the points available, they have, 15 points that they could earn in this first window of games. And if we take Group A, for example, playing potentially today, depending on when you're listening to this, they could achieve 15 points, which wouldn't get them the 16 FC Pro point milestone, but could get them beyond the 10 FC Pro point milestone, which is 1 roll plus and 1 alt position. But they could also get the 6-point upgrade, which is a weak foot or skill move upgrade. And there is that 3-point upgrade, which is, as we've said, the +1 overall. So between those upgrades, you could get all of them potentially on one player, just any of these coming weeks, I suppose, depending on when the player is playing. And I guess that's a fairly impactful upgrade at this stage, Josh.
I think it's a really fascinating way that they've set up the upgrades this year. And I think it means that you could see players in one night really get a massive kind of price increase because everybody's seen it. But, big investment opportunities. And even if somebody doesn't do, because there's such a gap between the first set of game weeks and the second set of game weeks, players are going to change and improve. We'll probably get a patch in between those 2 game weeks as well that might suit the way one person plays over another one. So, you could really see a player that maybe doesn't do well in the first set of games go away and really train and work and improve themselves. And also, probably with a new set of players that they can then use for the second round. And that card that everyone's gone, oh, well, they're not getting any upgrades and it's now discard. Actually, suddenly they could get 10 points in the second round of games. And now that card's a little bit more, it just gets that boost that pushes it back into the power curve. Because, it is worth saying it's quite a long time to wait for the kind of second set of upgrades that go with them. We can get up to those first 3 upgrades in this kind of first 5 games, but that all of those second 3 won't come until kind of late January, February. So I really like the way that they've done it because I think it will drive more interest in actually each of the individual game weeks now for the next 4 weeks. Because just one win, even if your player's lost, if you've invested, this isn't going to happen, but say you've invested in Gravenberch and you get to the 5th game, no upgrades yet, just one win in that fifth game, suddenly it's a +1 overall, and it can really change a card. It could really improve a card. We've seen so many times that a +1 overall upgrade just changes the way people look at a card. And I mean, we had Inform Ronaldo in the team of the week last week, and for some reason that made him 10x or 30x, the price of his base card. So those +1s are important to cards, and yeah, I actually really like this upgrade path. And even the kind of adding a role plus plus, these are going to be some of the first cards that have 2 role plus pluses. And that's quite that's going to be interesting to see. Does that actually change the way people play? Does it allow them to be a bit more flexible in their tactics if they've got a card that can really allow them to play 2 different styles or 2 different formations? So yeah, the fact that in one night you could get 1 overall, a skill move or weak foot upgrade, and a role plus plus an alternative position, I think that's really powerful and shouldn't be underestimated, especially on some of those kind of lower valued, lower rated cards.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And as we've said, a lot of potential here. I mean, actually for investment, especially, there's a lot of people don't necessarily keep as much of an eye or are as aware of the upgrade potential of some of these players as they are things that they know well, like a road to the knockouts and that sort of thing. So we will go through pretty much player by player and get Richard Buckley's thoughts on who has a chance of upgrading, and we'll do that group by group just after this break. Hello, a quick reminder in this break to both listeners and supporters. There is a supported Discord for gold or icon supporters of the podcast, and in there you'll find a whole section where you can arrange rush matches and get some good teammates to make progress. And there is a champs channel for commiserating about champs generally or getting a bit of advice. And there's the Foot Advice channel, which is specifically for all Ultimate Team advice. There's plenty of other resources in there too, and a fantastic community. So if you haven't signed up already, then do sign up, become a supporter on the gold or icon tiers, and you'll get the bonus podcast that you get on the bonus podcast tier, plus access to the Discord too. It would be great to have you in there. Just search Support Foot Weekly and you can find the options for signing up over on Patreon. A huge thank you if you decide to do so, and a huge thank you, of course, to all those supporters keeping the podcast going. And let's jump back into this week's pod. Hello, welcome back. Right, let's work our way around the groups and see who Buckley thinks might be a little bit underrated and could potentially rise, potentially get some good upgrades. And it's worth noting, actually, the upgrades happened fairly quickly last cycle. So that's always nice, keeps the hype going, I think. And yeah, let's start with Group A then. This is going to be happening on Monday, so probably the day this podcast comes out. Might be when you're listening to this podcast. Who do you think Richard is likely to be racking up the points in this group?
Yeah, so 𝘱𝘊𝘐 is number 1 ranked in the world. He's going to be representing Fabio Carvalho, 𝗵𝗽𝗄𝗏, who's got a huge following behind him. The only African player in the tournament. Morocco, they love him. He's going to be with Amrabat. Facu Cohen, as you said, from Argentina with Redondo. 𝘵𝑆𝑛𝑒b is 𝘵𝑚𝗀𝘱. Mark 11 is Morsy from Ipswich. And Stingray is going to be representing Bynoe-Gittens. Personally, I think from who is going to play well, who's going to do well, Stingray has looked very good. However, he qualified in a back 5 and he's not playing 5 back anymore. So I'll be intrigued to see how he plays and what he does. 𝘱𝘊𝘐 is the number 1 ranked player in the world. He won the Esports World Cup last summer and he's always a very safe pair of hands. But Fabio Carvalho is, I think, about 130k. So it is a little bit of a risk. I think if I was to say, and this is not trading advice, but I think that 𝗵𝗀𝘱 with 𝘵𝑆𝑛𝑒b, I think there's a lot of upside there. Power Shot Plus already on the item. We're looking, obviously, he's not ideal to link, being Turkish League, but English. He has got Cam as one of his positions. I think 𝘵𝑆𝑛𝑒b has got a really good chance of at least getting 6 points, which will be a skill move or a weak foot, which would take him to 5-star, one or the other. If that comes out as a 5-star weak foot with Power Shot Plus, and say he was to go and get 10 points, and that alt position maybe takes him up to a striker.
Or centre mid even would be quite nice, wouldn't it?
Centre mid, well, his original item was centre mid, and they've took that away from him. So if he was to even go back to centre mid, I think there's a real player in there. Like Gerrard is used a lot. Lampard is used quite a bit for the Power Shot Plus. That 𝗵𝗀𝘱 is competing with him, in my opinion. And I think that's where I'll be going in Group A.
And I'm guessing Morsy maybe not the most exciting of players anyways. I mean, he actually looks all right, but there are certain players you just think, even with the upgrades, or maybe it would take the whole competition for them to get an upgrade that makes people think they're worth putting in their team.
Yeah, especially with the lack of Playstyle Plus. The one thing that's probably worth mentioning is that for a player like Morsy, there's a small chance. I mean, I think it's unlikely that Mark doesn't get 3 points from his first 5 games. Like I would expect most players will get a win somewhere, or even just a couple of draws or 3 draws. But if he didn't, and then you've got that wait until January, there's every chance an 86 rated card fits into an evolution. And so suddenly that a well-rounded Morsy card with great defensive aspects to him, like decent base play styles, that could then be a quite interesting Evo. But I do struggle to see the cards without Playstyle Pluses kind of maintaining value, because they have to win the competition in order to get a Playstyle Plus. So this, I would be slightly wary of a player like Morsy. There's probably Evos that will give you better performance than him right now.
Nice. Well, let's move on to Group B. And of course, well, I said there were some good pros in Group A. There are definitely some in Group B as well.
Yeah, I mean, Group B is it's a very, very stacked group.
Group of death, would we say?
I'm going to hold off on that for now. But I think you've got 4 players in there for me. Anders Vergang. I mean, he needs no introduction. And I think EA know that as well, because they've given him 𝗵𝘃 who is well over 1 million coins last time I looked. I've got an interesting point on that, which I'll run you through, and then I'll give you my hot take.
Mm-hmm.
You've got 𝗏𝘗, who is from Saudi Arabia, who qualified last year to the Pro Open. Again, a little bit of an outsider to qualify, but he has done. He's got Al-Abed, who is like discard 10k. 𝘬𝘃𝗲𝗄𝘃, who didn't have a very good season last year, but is one of the best players in Europe when the game suits him, and I think the game does suit him. He's representing 𝘭𝘪𝘬𝘦, who I think is a really good investment opportunity. Yeah. There's not a lot of good Brazilian right-backs who are cheap, and he's the best Brazilian right-back outside of icons and heroes.
Some disrespect for Antonio Silva there, the road to the knockout. He was very good.
Apologies, but that's where I'm going. We've got Nicholas, who is a legend. A lot of people regard him as the best player to ever play, with Palacios, the Argentine, about 130k. So we got Manu 𝗵𝘀𝘁, who was the 2023 world champion, beating Michael Even in penalties. He qualified very good. A lot of people saying he is top 5, top 10 in the world right now, like a very solid player. His item yet to be announced as of recording, but I'm sure it'll be some sort of Dutch player with the allegiance this year. And then finally, 𝗵𝘃𝘁𝗏, who qualified in the last chance qualifier. He was the 17th and last player to make it into the Pro Open, and he has been rewarded with Karim Benzema as his item.
Yeah, he does look good with the Finesse Plus. Who do you think then has a good chance of, I guess, getting the 10 points first time of asking is probably a good way of putting this at this point.
I think for the 10 points, I'd be looking at Manu and 𝘭𝘬𝘃𝗲.
Mm-hmm.
Which you might think, well, Anders, what about Anders? I've seen Anders play a little bit this year, and if this does get back to him, I apologise, but I've not seen him he's not played that well. He played in our Wicked Wednesday tournament and got knocked out by Levy. I think it was 4-0. He obviously was incredible at the back end of last year, and I've just not seen him at his level so far this year. I think with step-overs not being as important as they were, I think it's a lot more of a mechanical game rather than a creative game. And I think he potentially might struggle in this first week. So if you do have a lot of coins and you are a little bit of a gambler, there's a chance that 𝗵𝘃𝘰𝗰𝘀, if you're on it and he loses his first couple of games, could drop significantly. However, what I will say, I know what Anders is like, and if he has a bad week 1, the next time he comes to play in January, he will have improved drastically.
Mm.
So there's a world in which that 𝗵𝘃𝗰𝗀𝘀 could drop. You pick him up, you hold, Anders comes back, plays well, gets 10 points, qualifies, goes on to win the tournament.
Mm.
And that is a real possibility.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. And then what do you think about some of these others? Are we kind of saying it's unlikely that Benzema gets an upgrade at all? Or do you think some of these will still get... I mean, I guess there's a good chance they get an upgrade, right? Because they only got to get 3 points.
Yeah.
But it's that second upgrade, I guess, that skill moves them weak foot, which could be really nice on a lot of these players, but whether they're going to get it, hard to say.
Well, I think the tough thing is, obviously, if you're looking for a short-term upgrade, I think all of the players in there should at least get 3 points. Most of them will get 6. But only 3 go out of the group in terms of qualifying into the knockouts, into the next stage. And for me, in that group, you've got 4 players in Vergang, Peixoto, Nicholas and Manu Bachore. One of them isn't going to continue and isn't going to qualify. And it's really, really tough to call. I think if I was to guarantee one of the players, I think Manu goes through.
Yeah, I also wanted to give a shout out to the Palacios as well as a player. I think was it an SBC last cycle that people liked quite a bit actually that came out, and I think he has all the attributes to be a very, very useful defensive midfielder. I mean, Intercept Plus is really good in defensive midfield. He has Anticipate and Bruiser. He has Press Proven. He's not the strongest, but with Bruiser and Anticipate, I don't think that's going to matter that much. And he's just got exceptional defensive stats as well. In the 90s for a lot of them, and his passing's really good, and his dribbling's amazing for his position. So he is 150k, which seems quite a bit, but I think if you're looking for those Bundesliga chemistry options, he's definitely a good one. It's interesting in terms of the price of many of these players. At time of recording, I think they are pretty high and they'll probably drop off. But I think potentially supply has been a bit of an issue. A lot of people very aware of Black Friday coming, and that being a popular thing to save packs for probably means we just haven't had the supply that we might have got. And I guess also... there's another side to this, which is that Black Friday could cause some dips in prices. But I would say generally it's been better to buy these players just as they go out of packs, or actually once they're out of packs. Black Friday could make things a bit different this cycle, I guess.
Yeah, I think this can be quite a difficult promo to get the kind of casual player super engaged in. And as much as I think it's doing a really good job, I still think it's probably going to need at least this year before I think people really engage with it properly. Van den Boomen last year was an incredible player, but I don't think many people had him because they hadn't really engaged with the promo. As you say, Black Friday's here, so people might be saving packs or anticipating what was quite a big power curve push promo last year. But I mean, some of these cards are so good. They're definitely, it's definitely worth. I personally, I can't hold packs at the moment. I have to just open them when I get them and just see what you get. So yeah, I think there's been some more packs opened overnight as people have realised actually the value of these cards, if they do open them, is probably worthwhile.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Just one quick thing on the prices updating and the quickness of it. A little bit of peek behind the curtain. In the draft process, so every week there's a new set of requirements that the players have to play with. That gets locked. The players have to submit their team for Saturday night. And in the requirements, they've got to have 2 FC Pro Live items. So I think they didn't particularly want everyone to take the 2 cheapest players and just stick them on the bench because half the team was extinct.
That's a good
point. Who do you think will be the most selected player that might actually get some game time for people?
I think 𝘵𝘃𝗰𝗀𝘀's got a shout.
Yeah.
With Power Shot Plus. Well, it's 8 million coins, the budget. And I can run you through it actually now. Well, in that, you've got to have 1 Centurion player, 1 Centurion icon, 2 Trackstar players, and 2 FC Pro Live items.
And is that in the starting 11 or just...
In the squad.
In the squad, okay.
And the rest of the team is up to you, but it's 8 million total budget. I would expect that Weghorst is picked off the bench. And then the other player, it could be a discard player, or it could be... I mean, the position that a lot of people haven't really liked so far is right back. I don't know if 𝗏𝘗𝘁 gets in. Gravenberch is a lot of coins.
Could you see 𝘵𝘃𝗏𝘁 maybe for a Premier League link-up?
Theo Hernandez is just too good.
Well, yeah, but 𝘵𝘃𝗏𝘁 has right back, is what I mean.
Yeah.
He's a bit weak, isn't he, I think?
I'm not sure. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. Well, talking about right backs, we do have that 𝗏𝗏, and I think we'll get into that because he is part of Group C. Yeah, how's Group C looking for you, Richard?
I think for me, this would be my quote-unquote group of death. You've got some incredible players in there. 𝗏𝘂𝘀𝘲𝘐 and 𝘭𝘪𝑬𝑗 were the two players who auto-qualified from last season's performances. 𝗏𝘂𝘀, as we know, last year, Donyell Malen, super cheap, great investment. This year, Gravenberch, 1.2 million, good luck. I mean, there's a huge potential that 𝗏𝘂𝘀 does do very well. I don't know how much higher that Gravenberch could go, just like in the general scheme of the market. 𝘭𝘪𝑗 is represented by 𝗏𝘏, who was the SBC. I think that SBC, or just over 120k-ish currently.
Like 150. It wasn't awful because there weren't any crazy high-rated squads, I think, from what I remember. There was an 86 with the team of the week, I guess, but it's an 82, 83, 84, and 85. So it's doable. I mean, just as a tangent, I think it's quite a good card. Technical plus is quite fun on a right back and could be helpful for an attacking fullback. He's got attacking wing back plus, but his passing isn't good. He doesn't have any passing playstyles apart from whipped, and his short passing is 82, his long passing is 75. It's a bit of a weird one because his defensive stats and physical stats are actually amazing. Really, really good for this stage of the cycle, and he's got intercept and jockey. He does have fullback plus, so I think he's quite good. I think he's someone that, with the French Bayern Munich links and the fact that he's being represented by a good pro, it's probably not a bad SBC to be doing if he fits your team, actually. And you're saying, Richard, do you think there is a good chance of upgrades there for him?
Yeah, I think he's got a really solid chance. 𝘭𝘪𝑗 put a tweet up actually last night saying, make sure you complete his SBC. He's already the best right back on the game, and I'll do my best to get him upgraded even more. And I think he did like over 300,000 impressions. So I think there is people, especially on social media, who are like really behind this. But I think the SBCs help a lot because it attracts to it. Everyone can complete it rather than trying to go and buy someone off the market. Obrun is representing 𝗫𝘕nьé. Obrun was one of the top 3-4 players who qualified in terms of performance. Everyone at the event from other pros was saying Obrun is ridiculous this year. Like, he's a real threat. And I think 𝗫𝘕nьé, like 60, 65k, there's decent potential for Obrun to go all the way.
Yeah, he's one of those ones where if he gets to 6 points, that 𝗫𝘕nьé, and he gets a 𝘭𝘰𝘐𝗏𝘐 upgrade, if it's a 5-star skills particularly, I think that looks then a very interesting player. But I don't know, it's tricky with some of the linkability, Josh. He's not the most linkable.
Yeah, although, MLS is getting quite a lot of love, I think, in terms of promo cards. And there's been quite a lot of Serie A usage this year. The Thuram brothers definitely helped with that. Now, it tends to be more French Serie A, so the Italian link is a bit more difficult to get. But I also think we're coming into kind of chemistry change season where icons are a bit more plentiful. We start getting some promos where the chemistry gets, you can boost it with a player or two. So I wouldn't be worried too much, I think, about linkability. It'd be easy to get an MLS player or two in with him. Although I will say Toronto are absolutely terrible. So,
it's lucky it's not that kind of live promo, yeah.
Yes, indeed. I do think that card has got a good chance of a lot of upgrades. I think that is reflected in his price. He's one of the more expensive players of the lesser leagues. But yeah, I mean, definitely one to look out for. Could easily be looking at all 3 upgrades after the first day.
Yeah.
Talk about the MLS as well. There's 4 players just from this promo.
Yeah.
There's some really good potential there.
Yeah.
To round out this group, we've got 𝗏𝘃, who I don't think needs any introduction. A lot of people know about him, even if you're not following the pro scene. Last year, he did terribly on week 1 and then came back for his second week around and played much better. It looks to me, speaking to him, that he's enjoying himself a lot more. And a little promo, he will be joining us on Monday on the broadcast. So if you want some insight from 𝗏𝘃, he's going to be joining us for week 1, week 2, and week 4 to give his thoughts on the other pros.
Yeah.
Ake is who he's representing. I don't think there's much upside, being completely honest, for this Ake. I think if you pack him, fantastic, but I wouldn't really go anywhere near him on the market.
Yeah, and I have to say, controlled, accelerate centre-backs, just not it, to be honest. You're right, I don't think it's the most exciting for 400 and something K. 𝘃𝗲𝗬𝘏, though, I mean, I'm surprised by his price too, 180k. I know he's got 90 dribbling, he's good on the ball, but yeah.
I think last year, 𝘭𝘪𝘬𝘦 was 𝘵𝑚𝑒T's item.
Oh, yeah.
Who they just love a fullback for 𝘵𝑚𝑒T.
Yeah.
𝘵𝑚𝑒T is very good. I think predicting who's going to go through this group is very, very difficult. We've also got 𝘵𝘃𝗲𝘃𝘁 in this group, who is from Brazil, also playing for RB Leipzig. He's represented by 𝘵𝘰𝗍𝘄𝗏. Not much to say, really. He will probably get 3-6 points. 𝘵𝘃𝗏𝘃 is a very, very good player, but I think in this group there's going to be a lot of draws. I think there will be a couple of players who pull away, and I think those players will be Oberon and 𝘵𝑚𝑒T. I think if I was to guarantee them, guarantee probably, one of those two will go through first. And then the reason I'm not huge on Yuval, and sorry if he completed the SBC for Bowie, we've just not seen him play this year. He also qualified from last year's performances.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And I think if coming through qualifying is, you have to take something from that. Emre, on the other hand, has been playing. I've seen more of him in terms of competition and different sets of league matches and whatnot. And I think Emre, for me personally, has probably built up more money in the bank in terms of I trust him not to get a terrible performance. Whereas Yuval, his best ever performance was last year at the World Championships, but before that, I've seen him get grouped and I've seen him perform poorly. In a group like this, I don't know how he does.
Interesting. That's good to know. And then moving on to Group D, the names that stand out to me there are Levy and 𝘃𝗲𝗏𝘃.
Last year's winner, 𝘃𝗲𝗏𝘃, he's been given Gabriel Jesus for his victory, and a very expensive Gabriel Jesus, well over 800k when I looked this morning. Again, I don't know what upside there is if he was to go on and perform really well. And like, does this item, I suppose it's a question for Josh, if Gabriel Jesus was to go on and get 5-star skills, does it go any higher? I don't know.
See, I think there's potential that he does. Obviously, Trivella's quite like a in vogue play style, even though I think it would be more with finesse or power shot. But if he got the skill move or weak foot, he's obviously getting the +1 as well to 89. Suddenly you've got a near 90 pace striker with high 80s in shooting, 92 dribbling, like mid 80s physical, 5-star, 4-star, even 4-star, 5-star. I just like when you look at that card and compare it to, say, the Chiesa that we had for track stars, like, is there that, is Chiesa that much better for a player that can play in similar positions, but with the ++ at striker? I don't know. So, I don't think he's got much more room to go up. I think the kind of 1.2 or 1.3 that he was extinct at yesterday was a little ridiculous. But I think by the time it gets the upgrades, maybe the price will have dropped fairly significantly. And if it has done, then yeah, there's probably is some headroom if he goes up to 5-4.
Yeah, it's important to say that because these games in Group D won't be getting played until the 16th of December. So the earliest you're going to see an upgrade is probably the 17th morning or the 16th night, depending on how quick EA are with turning those upgrades around.
Yeah.
You mentioned Levy. He is with Weghorst, who I think everyone in the back of the mind is thinking, not again. Here we go again. Super cheap. Weghorst, 28k. Levy, as I said earlier, made it to the semi-finals last year. He is just a very, very solid FC player. He will always give you an 8 out of 10 performance. He might not play at a 10 out of 10, but he's never going to give you a 4. Like, it's going to be a very, very steady player. And I think that Weghorst has got some upgrades coming. 𝗵𝗀𝗪𝘀𝘁 also in the group. He has been represented with 𝗏𝑚𝑏𝑎𝑘𝑖, if I'm saying that correctly. I think 𝗵𝗪𝗪𝘀 is a great player, and I think there will be upgrades there. Whether or not he goes through, he made it to the quarterfinals last year in the FC Pro Open, but this group is really, really competitive. KTZN is with 𝘵𝑐𝗱𝗻, who I think the one thing this year that I've noticed, there's probably more higher rated items. I seem to think last year we only had like one or two 88 or 87 rated, and there were a lot of like 85, 86. 𝘵𝑐𝗱𝗻 coming in pretty expensive already. I do think he will struggle in the group. Sorry if you have got this 𝘵𝑐𝗱𝗻. He played really well in the qualifiers. He was a complete out the blue player. I didn't have him down to qualify, but he's been put into a group with some top talent who have done it consistently over a number of years. And I think he will struggle to pick up points. Rounding out this group, Paulo Neto, another MLS player from Brazil. He's been given Gregerson, a centre-half, super cheap, discard price. Paulo is very, very good, and I think there will be some upgrade there. The only problem is how much is Gregerson going to go up by?
Yeah, especially skill movement weak foot is not really.
It's not ideal,
much,
is it?
Yeah, it's a shame that.
And then finally, 𝗏uma, who's been given Roussillon, who I mentioned earlier about LJR, and the reason I say that, they both represent the same team in real life. They both play for FC Lorient. I think this item for Roussillon is really, really good, and I think if we're looking for an investment, this could be it. With the price ratings updates, him dropping massively down, I think he's like 40k at the minute, 45k. If 𝗏uma was to play well and the upgrades come in, which I think they will, I think there's a real chance that this Roussillon becomes very, very viable. And if the alt position is over to right back,
and he got a 5-star weak foot, maybe.
Yeah, there could be something really nice there.
Yeah, I do feel like right back's a bit lacking, and he's a physical player as well, which is nice. Any thoughts on the players across this group, Josh, before we move on?
I do just want to shout out Hassan 𝗏𝗏𝗪𝗏, the 𝗵𝗪𝗪𝗀𝗁 card. I used him last night. I like using promo players when they're released, just because it's good to get like a handle on who's looking good. And obviously there's quite a lot of really good Saudi players now. You know, I shouted out 𝗵𝗪𝗀𝗁𝘀 last week, and this is a club link. They both play for Al-Hilal, and he's really like solid, like a really kind of solid centre back who, you know, you notice the lack of a playstyle plus, but with both 𝘵𝑎𝑛ticipate and 𝗏𝑜ckey as base playstyles, he's like decent at winning the ball back. You know, you stick an anchor on him, he's low 90s in pace with high like 80s pretty much everywhere you'd want them. And then 92 stand tackle, 92 slide tackle, 96 strength, 95 jumping. He's just a really like solid player. And if he gets the upgrades, it could be a like really, really good card. Obviously, it's going to be a good while before it would get those upgrades. But yeah, like just a bit of a shout out for the cheaper players in this promo. And if his price does drop, you know, because it will be 3 or 4 weeks before we'd see any upgrades. You know, if he gets anywhere close to this card, it's worth trying him out if you're looking for chemistry in your Saudi League squads.
Makes sense. So I guess, Richard, I'm not sensing there's sort of a Marlon like we had last cycle, where it's like, it would be silly not to at least put some coins into this player. But do you have a sort of particular favourite in terms of investment potential? I know you mentioned Oxlade-Chamberlain, but I guess there is a bit more risk there perhaps than some other players, because he's like, what, 50, 60k at time of recording. But maybe that's still worth a flutter.
I'll be putting my coins into two players. And Oxlade-Chamberlain is one of them, just because I also think at like 60k, I don't see a world in which that item goes to 20, 30k, just because of the stats that he already has right now. The other one, which I'm going to put a large amount of coins into, is Igor Silva. Because I think Peixoto does do very well. And I've got a very sneaky suspicion that his old position might not just be over to left back. I don't know where it could go to, but I think there's a world in which that could get moved around a little bit. And if he does go over to left back, I think it solidifies him as it's a no risk, potentially decent, high reward investment. The thing that will be very interesting, 𝘬𝘬𝘴𝘁 week 1, say for example he gets 10 points. That +1 overall, is it just a +1 on all the stats, or is it a nicer +1 overall? Because I think if as soon as that item ticks to 90 pace, I think he lights up in a lot of people's eyes who are just looking straight past him.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, at the very least, maybe, chuck one in your club. It's not going to take up space on your transfer list. And it's probably the same with a few of these very cheap options. It's always good to have a little stock of live items in your club, because they often do just go up, and there's no harm in doing so. Well, Richard, thank you very much for taking us through the FC Pro Live groups. And of course, people can come along and watch them every Monday for the next 4 weeks. Yes, you can watch Monday. We'll be live this upcoming Monday, as of recording, the 25th, 5:45 on Twitch, YouTube, on EA Sports FC's channel. You can see on Monday myself, Ryan Pessoa, Brandon Smith, FG, and Tex breaking down all the action for you. Nice. Looking forward to it. And thank you very much for coming on the pod. And people can catch you, 𝘵𝑎𝑏uckley98, on most social media. Bingo. Nice. That's the one. Thank you, Richard. And Josh, it's been great to chat about FC Pro Live. Slightly different, earlier recording this week, but I guess we can get it out earlier as well, which is nice. Yes, and let's make the most of this content before the madness that is Black Friday. One thing that they will have expired by the time you hear this, but we are getting Showdown SBCs. The Morales and Van Zier ones, I think they were must completes. If you can put an untradeable 83 rated squad in, that you're probably getting out of your duplicates, and get a card that can go to 87 rated back. I think it's worth doing, as a fodder trade-off. Fodder tends to go sky high during Black Friday, so might be a nice time to pre-prepare with those. Yeah, so look out for, I guess, those types of Showdown fodder options moving forward. Nice. Thank you, Josh. Catch you after the Black Friday madness, I guess. Yes, I am not prepared. I need to fill the club out with more players. Definitely. And actually, any content that is hugely significant that we've missed, we will be talking about on the supporter gameplay episode this week, which you can catch as a supporter. Remember, it's just £3 a month to get double the podcast content, and you can do that over on Patreon. Just search Support for Weekly. We've got Taz on with his gameplay expertise, so plenty of gameplay questions answered too. And also a quick reminder that you can subscribe via the various different podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. And of course on YouTube, where you should definitely leave a like and a comment, because it helps us out big time. And speaking of, a huge thank you to all you supporters out there keeping the podcast going, and to those icon patrons: Dave B, Hugh J, Jeff B, Darren W, Warren A, Stephen M, Waterman, Dan W, Roger D, Rob P, Lee A, Dom P, LM, Damon H, The Shirt Locker, Alex M, Tom B, Jake S, Neil P, Michael K, David G, Andrew R, Michael H, Jimmy K, Brendan T, Berta Saka, Michael B, Brian V, Josh R, Brent P, Rob W, and 𝗵𝘂𝘁. Plus a special thanks to Luke M, Dave B, Hugh J, Tom M, Darren W, and Pato Foot for advice and production assistance. Before I leave you, just one more thing to add though. Ultimate Team is a bit like life really. It has its many ups and downs. If you're having a few more downs than ups in real life in these more difficult times, then please don't feel that you're alone or need to struggle on without taking action. If you go to thecalmzone.net, there's loads of resources, advice, support, or even just a friendly chat for anyone who needs it. If it sounds like it could help you, then head over to thecalmzone.net. And for now, have a good one, and I'll catch you on the next podcast.